In a little over 3 weeks, Canada is hosting one of the biggest spectacles in sport, and perhaps to no one's surprise, that big show comes with a big bill for taxpayers. We're learning that the 13 FIFA World Cup matches that Vancouver and Toronto are hosting will cost various levels of government more than $1 billion. Sarah is here with some of the details. $1 billion for hosting a dozen soccer matches. Where's this money going?
13 games.
Oh, okay.
Kickoff is June 11th, and we're getting this information now from the Parliamentary Budget Office. So the breakdown that we have is primarily to do with the federal spend on this, but it does go into what they estimate the total cost is going to be, and it is a total cost of just over $1 billion for the 7 games that will be hosted in Vancouver and the 6 in Toronto. So that's 13 in total. If you do the math, it's $82 million per game. About half the total cost of just more than $1 billion is going to be covered by the federal government, $473 million. And the way that $473 million breaks down, you've got primarily it's going to be going to local hosting budgets, so to some of the stadium improvements that are happening as well in both of the cities, as well going to be paying for security largely at this event, and the security cost is going to obviously be very high. The rest of that $1 billion is going to be covered by the other levels of government, so provincial, both Ontario and British Columbia, and then the various municipalities that will either be hosting the games and the festivities, or even maybe just festivities themselves. And if they were to go over at the provincial or municipal level, they are going to be responsible for paying that overrun. The report does include as well estimates for FIFA games that have been hosted by other countries. And I want to just put that up here because, well, the $82 million per game does sound like a large number. If you look back through various World Cups and you break it down what other countries have spent, you see that you've got France managing to do it for $22 million per game. That was back in 1998. So different concerns security-wise, different costs that they were facing. Go to 2014. Brazil paid $125 million per game. So it could either be done potentially for much more than is being spent in Canada, or potentially, if you look at France, a lot less. The thing to keep in mind about these other countries that have hosted is that they were hosting all of the World Cup games. And of course, in Canada, we're only responsible for the 13.
Yeah, and it's kind of apples and oranges because some places built stadiums, other places didn't. You look at 1998, inflation has been quite a bit since then. Mm-hmm. So bottom line, we're paying a lot of government money per game here. And of course, part of the argument is we're getting lots of tourism.
That is the argument being made. And there are many different ways to calculate whether or not that spend is going to come back to the country in terms of tourism dollars. Certainly Vancouver is a big tourism city. There are a lot of ways to measure this, but hotel stays is one that we sort of turn to in the early days of things to see what are the bookings like. And what we can say based on what we're hearing from Tourism Vancouver today is that bookings right now for that period of time during the World Cup are down about 20%. And also the rates we're looking at here are substantially up, 113% higher than they were last year. The average price of hotels right now is around $500 for a hotel room. Tourism Vancouver was on the radio with CBC earlier this morning, saying that they do expect the bookings are going to go up, but they also are anticipating there's going to be a lot of local fans, like people who are from the Lower Mainland or at least from British Columbia who plan to attend these games and maybe not relying on hotel stays. Take a listen to that clip.
Based on modeling, that we're expecting about 43% of those that are going to be attending the FIFA games will be local. So a lot of day trips. In addition to that 43%, we've got another 5% that are going to be from BC as well.
So for those who might be local and or even not and planning to take in a game or thinking that it's too high, that the costs are sky high, you might want to take in one of the Air Transit ads. They're out today and a lot of people talking about them. It's a cheeky take on this. If it costs too much to watch the country play at the World Cup, then you could potentially spend far less just going to the actual country itself.
Let's spend a second just to give, kudos to Air Transat for that very cheeky ad, as you pointed out.
Clever.
So watch Mexico in person, 3,500, or England, 3,400. Go see England on Air Transit, 779.
Yeah.
Sometimes an ad just nails it, and that one does.
Yeah.
All right, Sarah,
good.
thank you. Our next guest says the estimate from the Parliamentary Budget Office should give taxpayers some cause for concern. Jared Vaughan is an adjunct professor at UBC's Sauder School of Business, and he is in Vancouver. Jared, thanks for joining us. What's your reaction to these numbers?
I think in any situation, Ian, where the government is spending taxpayers' dollars, we need to be reticent and cautious with this. I don't think the government has a great track record of spending our dollars wisely. And here we are at the eve of FIFA World Cup, and it seems like it's not going to be as great as we were once told it was going to be.
So what is it, $82 million per game subsidy, basically? Do you think a cost-benefit analysis has been done here? What do we get back for that investment?
Yeah, I'm sure a cost-benefit analysis has been done. The question is, has it been done correctly, or does the government have the ability to predict or forecast revenues from FIFA World Cup? And I think based on past experience and what we've seen, the way the federal government has acted in the past, I don't think there's a lot of trust in the public right now. And so that we would think that if FIFA really is profitable, the market, not the government, should be financing this. The infrastructure and the hosting costs shouldn't be coming from taxpayers across the country.
And I think especially when you consider a lot of Canadians who would like to go to the games haven't been able to find tickets, and the tickets that they have been able to find are really expensive. So I know you deal with the economics of issues, but from a moral standpoint, how do you feel about this pretty sizable government spending on the World Cup?
I think that if Canadians were taxed less and they had more affordable lives, and if the government wasn't so involved in their lives, they'd probably be able to afford tickets at the game. But because in our country we spend so much of our money funding the government, this large organism in our country, it makes it very difficult for individuals to afford something like this, to even dream of the opportunity of attending World Cup in our own country. And so I think people are sad, people are unhappy with the situation. And our economic situation isn't getting better in Canada. And so emotionally, I think Canadians are disappointed with the situation.
Yeah, I mean, I'll push back a little bit on that. That sounds like a fairly ideological view of taxation in Canada. Like if Canadians were taxed less, I mean, Americans are taxed less, and I think a lot of Americans are having problems or feel like World Cup tickets are too expensive down there.
I think that you're right. Americans are taxed less, but that doesn't mean they're taxed less enough. And so the scale in which we spend our dollars on taxation in this country, on government fees, on levies, on all of these different service charges, it gets very expensive to live in this country, not just because real estate's expensive or food is expensive, but because of government intervention. And so we would like to see government step out of our lives so that we can have more choice in our own life. These mega events don't automatically create value. And this is what we're experiencing here, is that this huge event, the world's biggest event, is coming to our cities, and we're really not seemingly experiencing the value of our tax dollars at work.
It's interesting because there are two parallel issues here, and I think on another day, maybe you can be involved in a debate on this show about taxation in Canada, whether we get value for money, public funding of health, et cetera. But let me put this to you. There is kind of a model, particularly, I think, well, I guess in Europe as well as North America, where governments subsidize the building of stadiums for professional teams, where they subsidize things like the Olympics and the World Cup. What if somebody said, if you don't subsidize it, you're not going to get the World Cup? How do you think countries should respond to that?
I mean, it certainly puts cities in challenging situations because there are positive economic outcomes from this, and there's positive social outcomes as well. People get together, they build community spirit, they feel good about their city being exposed to the international audience. And so there is something good about this. But public spending isn't free. It reflects choices in it, and there are many trade-offs. And so the question is it worth it for the citizens? Like, is building stadiums with public dollars worth it? Or would citizens rather have a rec center or a community center or nice park benches? And so this is a trade-off. And so in my view, I would like to see business support events like this rather than tax dollars.
All right. Jared Vaughan, an adjunct professor at the University of British Columbia Sauder School of Business. And on another day, we'll have that other debate. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.